Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's instalment from Back of the Net. I'm glad you can join me here for today's instalment. Once again, I am live from a random part of my property, and today I'm back again once more in the hallway. So I've been demoted from the living room, which of last week's interview, I'm back in the hallway again for needs must. But we join us in this brand new program in the series with us, which is called Our Journey, where we speak to different figures and personalities from the footballing world and talk about their story leading up to how their career has been and where they've ended up. So as always, get in touch with us via our social media channels and platforms. And don't forget to subscribe and like on our YouTube channel. Just click the bell for new content. So I'm absolutely delighted to kickstart our brand new series with a brilliant character and personality, and that is Dulwich Hamlet's manager, Gavin Rose. And I'm delighted to say he's joining us right now from wherever he may be during this time of lockdown. So pleasure to see you again, Gavin, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, James. Thank you. Pleasure to be with you.
Thank you, and it's always a pleasure to see you as well. And first thing I've got to ask before we delve into the program is, how have you been? I mean, how are things with you in general? How have you dealt with the current situation with the lockdown?
Pretty much like everyone. I think you're not a football manager when this happens. You're just a normal person. Everyone has probably had that realization that no matter what you do in life or career-wise, that you just become just like everyone else. And, you know, for me and my family, the first few days, we were sort of checking the news every day, waiting for that 5 p.m. bulletin, really, and just finding out what's really happening. But as the days went on, we started to sort of get away from that and just sort of just live every day the best we can and just try and enjoy the most we can with it, really. So it's been, in terms of just normal day-to-day life, it's been okay. It could be a lot worse, but you know, there's a lot of people who have lost lives and a lot of people are ill. So in perspective, we can't really complain. In terms of career, I'd say, it's been hard and it's a little bit stifling because you don't know. We didn't know in the season if it was going to end, for one, and then we just been told that it's going to end. And there's still talk about playoffs or maybe not a playoffs. There's so much uncertainty, and you can't really blame the league for that because they never really have probably thought this would have happened either. So just a bit of uncertainty for clubs, managers, players alike.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't imagine what it must be like for people like yourself at the moment in this time of great uncertainty where we don't know where we're going to go from one day to the next, especially in a footballing term in particular. Diving into the programme in general and what we're talking about today, of course, it's about your story or our story as much. And we want to find out a little bit more about yourself. Of course, people tuning into the show and they immediately think of you. They think about, of course, Dulwich Hamlet. You are Dulwich Hamlet through and through. But starting off with, just if you want to run through, for those people that don't know about yourself, just run through your career up to date and what you've been able to achieve and where you've been in your football career so far.
I think obviously I had a youth career like most. Was at Charlton, my local club Charlton. Millwall missed out on a scholarship quite late on, and then went and joined semi-professional club Sutton United. I was quite young. I was playing with the reserves and trained with the first team at sort of 15, 16. But it was quite small. But anyway, journeyed through sort of non-league football. Had an opportunity to go back into sort of professional football at about 21. I went up to Scotland with Greenock Morton and enjoyed my time there. Was offered a deal, but didn't think, because I'd started earning money, didn't think I could afford to live on what they had offered me. So I decided just to throw my head straight into coaching and playing. So I still played, obviously, some professional. Enjoyed my time playing. You know, achieved quite a bit and met some great people. But I started coaching quite early from that point of not getting a contract at Greenock Morton. I sort of thought maybe professional football weren't going to happen. So I started coaching at my local adventure playground across the road from myself where I lived. There were some really talented young kids there. Yeah, and really charismatic, talented boys. And I just thought that it'd be good to give back to them. And I enjoyed doing it, and they probably helped me in a sense stay focused, because obviously the dream up until then was to be a professional myself, and then I had to start thinking alternatively. So working with those young people sort of gave me still a decent focus to focus myself on what I would probably do next, rather than maybe just thinking I could have gone anywhere really and done anything. So I was quite happy that I've done that, and the coaching journey sort of started from there alongside myself still playing.
Wow, that's really interesting to hear your story of how you've led from having a playing career and then eventually leading on to management. Of course, with your management of Dulwich Hamlet, which of course everybody knows you about, over 500 games as manager, and plenty of stories and incidences you have had in your career and your time as manager so far of the club. I mean, we could go on all day about the stuff which has gone on at the club. I mean, when you first started your managerial career at Dulwich, what were you expecting going into that situation at Champion Hill? Did you have a sort of a rough idea of what you were getting yourself in for, or was it just a case of planning it from day one and then going forward from there?
I think I took the job when I was 32 at the time, and obviously when you're 32, you see things maybe a bit differently to you do now at my age. So I went into it sort of just thinking I could conquer the world. I'd had some stints at Beckenham, so we had a really successful team maybe 2 years before at Beckenham Town for some really talented young boys, and my mind was go in and replicate what we did there. It was only a league above in my mind, and I'd managed in the Conference South as well with Fisher Athletic for about 6 months before. So in my head, I just thought, look, we're going to go in this league and we're just going to tear it up, sort of thing. That's what you think when you're that age. And then we had some harsh realities. We didn't have a really competitive budget, and I think Dulwich at the time was a club that didn't really have a lot of footballing ambition. It ended up just being a little bit of a social for a lot of the people who used to go to the games and a lot of people at the club. There was no real expectation, and that kind of was my main key brief, was to get an expectation around the building, because I was quite, and still am, ambitious, and I wanted to do well. The fact that I lived a stone's throw away from the club as well was important for me, because I obviously knew a lot about the club, and I knew a lot of friends who... I felt that for young talent, and I knew that because we didn't have a big budget, we'd probably have to go through that sort of market of getting young talented players in, hopefully moving a few on and being successful. And obviously that's we have relatively done quite a lot of that.
Yeah, absolutely. You talk about the talented players that you've had in particular. There's a couple of players that spring off to my mind. The likes of Nyreen Clunas and Gavin Tomlin and Preston Edwards have really impressed in the Dulwich squad throughout the seasons. Of those players that you managed to accrue during your time and your current spell at Dulwich Hamlet, have you got one that really stood out for you as a manager, to think you've got this talented player in your squad and you think, wow, this guy, he's not going to be here for very much longer, I need to make use of him as much as I can?
Sure. Obviously, it's quite difficult because you're comparing it with the levels that we're playing at to what we played at before. But I mean, obviously, the players that have done really well, I think there's probably there's a bracket of 3 players. I think Erhan Astuma was with us for 2 seasons. And we had him as a youth player before that, but he was with us 2 seasons. And I think he really sort of ignited the atmosphere at Dulwich. The way we wanted to play, we was able to play it through him because he had that talent. We was able to play through him and also bring an attractive game, but a winning style as well. So I think Erhan really got a lot of people's interest, and his talent really was sometimes at days you'd really laugh at some of the things he'd do. It was top level. I think he's playing his trade now at Charlton, which is in the Championship. So that sort of tells you the level of player that we had. Another player that I think gave a little bit of a wow factor, was a little bit different, was more recently Reece Alasani.
Yeah.
Reece came quite sort of, he didn't even And I was really impressed with his personal fitness levels, having not had a pre-season and been out for I think he was out for about 12 or 13 months with a knee injury.
Yeah.
So he had a long time out, and came straight in, and just because he had a good football understanding, he just understood exactly what we wanted from him, and he was able to express himself as well. But at times he was unplayable, literally unplayable, and a great kid as well off the pitch, just like Erhan. And I always think that, sometimes the talent's good, but sometimes the mentality lets some boys down. But these two guys, talent, very good, and also really good mentalities. So them two have probably got that little maybe wow factor. The guy who's really consistent and steady Eddie would have been Ethan Pinnock. He's still churning out the same performances as he was at Dulwich, relatively in the Championship. Doesn't really put a foot wrong, very calm, unassuming, but does the job. Great character as well. Really, really good personality. So we've been really lucky. We've come across, there's a lot more, but I think those guys stick out to me. But their mentality as well.
Yeah, I completely agree, especially on the case of Reece Alassani. Being from the sideline point of view, I remember just how much of a gifted, talented player he was for your squad when he was there, and more so when he came onto loan at my supporting club, Woking. He came on loan to Woking. I knew what to expect from him as a player, seeing him play for your team. And I was just delighted. He was a fantastic talent for us and helped us got promoted out of the Conference South. And it was he is the real deal. So I'm completely in your favour as well when talking about him as a player. And you talk about big players and particular if you've got big games. I would imagine you get inundated when people ask you questions about big games and talk to you about the playoff final against Hen. Moving that aside, because you probably had it asked so many times and you've been inundated with that question about the playoff final. What game in your career so far as a manager stands out for you in particular? And it's probably looking back at your time also at Beckenham Town and Fisher as well to include into it. But moving aside the playoff final game, which is the obvious choice to ask you, what game in your mind stands out as the most memorable game you've had as a manager so far?
Very difficult. Very, very difficult. We've had some obviously really good times over the years. Obviously, the two promotions are poignant. So, one in the Rhine South where we won on the last day of the season, and obviously the promotion, like you spoke about earlier. But it's really strange because there's one game that I thought sort of embodies what I would like to represent as a person, as a manager, and also for the football club. We came back from a game losing to Macclesfield 2-0 when they scored two really early goals at our place. And really, I think everyone just thought, hey, here we go. We're going to we've embarrassed ourselves. We've come so far and we're going to play a big team and embarrass ourselves. And we had a group very talented and they had no fear. And that's what I liked about the group. They didn't really have a lot of fear. They backed themselves. And I was really proud of them because they came back against a conference team that was really good, that the season after won promotion automatically into the league in Macclesfield. We came back and drew 2-2 right at the death. And we lost, unfortunately, in the replay, but I just like the spirit and the way we played in that game. I thought we didn't just play, bridesmaids and turn up and just enjoy the day. I don't like that. I like the fact that we took on a team 2 divisions above us and went toe to toe with them. So for me, that's what I like. I like us trying to reach new heights, and even in other people's minds, I think our supporters probably looked at the team a bit differently after that game as well. So yeah, I think that game probably stands out.
Yeah, that's a really good example to use in that Macclesfield game. The game that stands out for me for you and your team was against Hendon, but wasn't the playoff final. It was the game at Jubilee Park in the league where you guys were trailing against Hendon. And I think that showed the true grit of your squad and the mentality that your team had that season to get the job done. And just the shock of seeing Ricky Hales pop up with a brilliant finish at the end, and you guys got absolutely mental.
Yeah, that's right.
That game sticks in my mind, and you think those must be the days that you remember and you look back on fondly, even though you must have had like a heart attack just before that moment happened.
Yeah, we started really badly that night. I remember, I think I didn't start Kenny Beanie. I think he wasn't even. I'm not sure if he was even on the bench that day.
Yeah, I know he wasn't on the bench.
No, he was my captain. And he stormed off, and that really wound me up because I've known Kenny since he was 16, and he stormed off for a while. So I was already in a bad mood, and we started terribly. And the Hendon were good. They were good in the first half. And it was one of those that we needed to win. And to be fair, I gave them 2 barrels at half time. But we had some characters. We had some real characters in the changing room, guys who would respond to the challenge and respond and also knew that they had their own standards. So it was easy. It was easy to speak to them in that way because you knew that they were disappointed as well. And we all, we was all relieved when Ricky sort of scored the goal, and we sort of, I think in a sense, we sort of like playing to our standards again, or at least trying to play in the manner that we accepted. So that was a great feeling, and I think we've had a few of those over the years. It's not always plain sailing in football, as everyone knows. You have to come back from defeat sometimes, and they sometimes feel sweet, even if you only draw. They feel really sweet. Team spirit to come back in.
Yeah, 1000% agree with that. And you talk about that football's not really an easy game and it's never really straightforward. I mean, not going too far into it, of course, the off-field problems that Dulwich have had in the past, especially with the issues at Champion Hill. I mean, from a footballing perspective, as a manager, just how hard was it to motivate the players, given the situation that you guys had to deal with at the time?
Yeah, I think at the time, in its height, when we actually went to Tooting and we were kicked out of our stadium, I think we were either first or second in the league, and we had a strong Billericay team we were competing against. Yeah. And it was quite demotivating, to be honest, because we knew that we were up against it anyway to try and pick Billericay to the league, and then we had the rug swept under our feet in a sense with this stuff from in-house, internal. You're not going to basically be at your own stadium. Players are fearing they're not going to be paid. And the spirit was so high at the time, it was like, what's all this about? And we had to sort of, in a sense, manage that off the field. But in the changing room, we tried to make out as if everything was normal. But deep down, I knew that we might not be able to pay the wages from month to month. But we couldn't show that to the players. All the years I've been at Dulwich, the players have never, ever not been paid. And that was something that, I know that's not normal because at non-league clubs you have cash flow issues and, there's all sorts of things happen. So I think the club always wanted to keep that standard, even through the toughest of times. And credit to everyone at the club at the time. They really dug deep and showed some great character and, found a way to make it happen. We were helped by Tooting, our arch rivals. It's quite ironic, but they were great tenants at the time, and without them, we really could have been as a club in a pickle. So I think it was massive in terms of that at that time, the achievement we had as a club on the pitch. But off the pitch, me as a manager, I think I probably didn't rest for 7 days a week. I was working with 2 other guys, Tom Cullen and Liam Hickey, who were sort of directors at the time. Daily, if we weren't meeting each other, we were meeting either the council or the owners or planning to do something or other to keep the club alive. And it was literally, it was quite chaotic. And I think not this season, but the season before last, there was a lot of debris because of that. Because emotionally, we'd come through quite a lot. And we got back to our stadium halfway through the season in that year. And the pitch was terrible. It took 3 months for it to even be half decent. And we started to return to the crowd coming in, but we just felt like it was a bit of a nomadic season, no real belonging. We didn't even know if we could have a budget really when we started the season in the Conference South. So it was almost like we'd done well. We got up, we got promoted, and then we had a bigger issue in front of us. And maybe we can't even pay the players and living from hand to mouth. So it was quite a difficult time. So yeah, I think since then, as a club, we're trying to find our feet because we're still not 100% certain on the new stadium. And there's, where there's any uncertainty, it's not really a great time to build for platforms really to build. So there is a little bit of uncertainty, but as it gets nearer, it seems to be getting better in terms of the negotiation with the club, the council, and the current owners. So that's a good thing. But I think it's been probably 2 years of real uncertainty, and I think we're getting to the end of it away from this coronavirus, obviously.
Yeah, that's the key question now for everybody in football is where does everybody go from here now with coronavirus, especially now considering the Vanarama South season has come to an end, as we know it so far, unless anything does change. And my final question to you really is what's in store for the future for Gavin Rose and for Dulwich Hamlet going into next season if it restarts again? What's your plan? What do you intend for the up and coming season up ahead, whenever it may start again?
Yeah, exactly. I think that whenever it may start again probably holds the key to the answer, really, because the longer we go on in this uncertainty, I think I've heard shouts of we could be back in September or we could be back in January. Now, obviously, the two differences would make a massive difference to the football club because surviving in that sort of time is very difficult. So it becomes hard, but obviously I think there's benefits of being at a club for so long, and the fact that the club know that I'll always try and work within whatever's right for the club to make sure it stays afloat, because there's always days where you need to cut your cloth accordingly, and there's other days when you can really have a go, and then we've shown that over the years. So we'll obviously wait and see how the land lies, and then we'll make our plan of what we're going to try and do throughout the season. But I think no matter what, we've had some good achievements over the years with really low budgets, and it doesn't really mean that you can't do well, and we'd always set out to do well. Our showing in the Conference South over the last 2 years has been underachievement in terms of my own personal standards, and I think I wouldn't say for the clubs, because the club, it's the first time we've been in the Conference South, so the mere fact that we're still in the league is not the worst thing in the world. But there's an expectation here at the club now, and I'm happy there is. I'm happy that people expect to win more games than lose. I'm happy that people want to see us maybe go a league above. They're good things, because when I came into the club, that didn't exist. It was a little bit more like, this is where we go with our mates, we have a drink and we go home. We lost, we won, doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Whereas now, to get disappointment when we don't win games is great, because for me that means there's a purpose in the club, and even that alone is a great achievement, and that's what you want to work under as a football manager. You want to work with expectation and people going home happy when they win and disappointed when they lose. And there's a real reason why the club exists, So for us, we want to do as well as we can. We always aim to try and be promoted, whether that be automatic or through the playoffs, and we just we'll look at everything when we come back and go from there.
Yeah, that's absolutely super, and I can say from personal experience, it's always been a pleasure to see you guys play and visit Champion Hill. I think it's just a unique buzz that you get from going to the ground and seeing your team play. Is just a unique atmosphere and a unique situation to be in, especially in particular the burgers you can get from the side of the pitch, which I think the £7, is it the grass-fed burger you can get from the side?
Something like that. Me and my friends spend a lot of time at the bar, the outside bar and the burger stand, so I've been told quite a bit about it. Yeah.
Well, honestly, Gavin, I can't thank you enough for coming on today's show. I really appreciate your time. And talking of time, that is all we've got time for today's programme. So my thanks goes again to Gavin for giving his precious time for us for the show. So thank you so much for coming on.
Yes, James. Pleasure.
Today. I really appreciate it. And don't forget, you can always follow us again on our social media handles, and also follow us on YouTube. And if you want to find out for new content that's coming onto the programme and all of our shows, then just click on the bell for when we get new content. So that's it. Show. Take care and bye-bye for now.